that obviously Joel is not here. I'd sent everybody an email. We were expecting Tracy Stoll to be here this evening, but unfortunately she's not feeling well, so she will not be here either. So our staff reps tonight are going to be Parker and Michaela. We've got Doug Swearis and Doug Cobbsbon are here as well to kind of go over their sections of agendas. So I just wanted to point that out real quickly. Next, we have a public comment period. This is just an opportunity for the public to address council. This is for items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if there's anyone in the public, I'm inviting you up now. But seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on down to our roundtable discussion amongst council members. Council, is there anything that you would like to discuss this evening? It's a roundtable item, or any questions that you have of staff? I've got a couple things, but I'll keep them kind of brief because I know we've got a couple presentations. The first thing is the FIT presentation. That First Impressions Tourism presentation was held on Thursday. There were a few council members that were in attendance, and I can say for myself, I found it really informative, actually very positive, and I felt like it also kind of validated some of the things that we're working towards. Did anybody else want to address your thoughts about that, or Parker have anything to say? I believe you guys just put up the presentation on the city Facebook.
Yeah, the report that we were given, as well as a recorded version of the full presentation, was just posted to the event page on Facebook of on the city's page is where it will live. And then that full report will live on the MSU extension page on their website indefinitely. So that can be accessed whenever. And then we just sent the full report to our downtown lowdown email listing too, so they could review that if they weren't in attendance.
Did anybody have anything you wanted to add about that?
So I was very encouraged by it. I felt like they seemed to be kind of impressed with Allegan, which I like to see. And seems like several of the things that they maybe had brought up that we need, that are opportunities for us, are already on our agenda, things that we're already working on, and within the next year or so, we'll see those things get taken care of. So it was, I thought it was really cool to see somebody else's view of our great city.
I couldn't agree more. That's what really stood out to me, is some of the opportunities that they mentioned. And I know I kind of touched base with Bill after the meeting, that, hey, these are things we're kind of already aware of and working towards. So some of our goals, even like the wayfinding and green community type stuff, having recycle bins downtown. Anything that you thought of, Peter, or what'd you think? I know you had a couple good questions or comments.
Not a whole lot. I still have to look through the whole data that was just sent. I just downloaded it, and I'm going to review it over this week and see if there's anything that sticks out to me.
Cool. So yeah, that's been uploaded for anybody that wasn't there. Absolutely feel free to take a look. And if you have any questions, probably contact the city or the MSU extension. The gentlemen were very knowledgeable. They were on like the tourism board.
Mm-hmm.
Just real quick, 5 people came to town on Tuesday or Thursdays between the end of May and early July, I think it was.
Correct.
And they were like, yeah, no, people always say, why don't you come during one of our events? But they come on those dates for reasons, they said. So they can just kind of see normal operations. And it was really pretty cool. And like Roger said, it made me feel good to see how outsiders saw town. So
Yeah.
just wanted to mention that. Next thing, I know that I have been receiving a lot of emails about the Allegan Dam, or the Calkins Dam it's called. So I would imagine that some of council has been too. My response is just pretty much, thank you for your email. You may want to reach out to Valley Township about, doing something about that proposed sale that they've got. So I don't know if anyone else had any, if you feel we need to
I got a couple on them, but the only thing I want to look at is our original sale contract, because Allegan City was the originator of that dam, and we sold that to consumers, so I don't know what the agreement was when we sold it, so I'd asked Joel today to kind of see what that was, just so I can review it and see if there's anything in there as far as continued operation or right of first refusals, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks, Peter, and I saw that email too, so that's good to look into. Next, I just wanted to bring up our October 10th meeting. I believe that council is on the same schedule of holidays as the county, so city chambers and hall will be closed on that Monday. What we've typically done is rescheduled to a Tuesday. In either event, I'll be honest, I won't be at that next meeting. I'll be celebrating my anniversary in Savannah, Georgia, so. So I just want to leave that up to council. I mean, that's how we've been doing things recently, and for me, I like consistency. So is everybody okay with rescheduling that to that Tuesday, the 11th, rather than Monday, the 10th?
I just wanted to chime in real quick. When you guys approved all of your public meetings for this year, we actually already adjusted that to the 11th.
Was that one already on the 11th?
So that's already been taken care of.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I know that some of them were not, so.
Yeah, I think the only one that we don't really address is the Fair Week for
Okay.
canceling that one. But
So
otherwise,
just a
we
reminder then,
adjust
I
them.
guess.
So,
I don't need to do anything. Reminded, it's on the 11th. The other thing real quick is, and we'll bring it up, I think Teresa said she wasn't at Public Spaces, but Parker will probably report on the Public Spaces meeting. They had recommended a motion to council for leaf and brush pickup for, I believe it was 9 weeks in the fall and the spring. Hi, Doug. I brought this up in our ordinance review meeting, so I just would like council to kind of have a conversation about how we would like to proceed with that. I know Doug had some reservations just with staffing levels and things because we're already doing 2 trucks picking up leaves, if I recall that conversation correctly. So, but this has come up multiple times with our residents that we don't offer that during the fall. So it is kind of on our shoulders to decide whether or not we want to start that up again. In the fall, because we do it in the spring already, isn't that right, Doug? Yeah. The brush, yeah.
Adding brush.
Yeah, adding brush to the fall pickup.
Brush, we're gonna do the first full week in October,
Okay,
and then resume it again in May, April, May timeline.
okay, so you're adding a week?
Right, end of the week.
Okay, so we can talk about that a little bit more then, but that's awesome. So thanks for the info, Doug. Yep, and the last thing is regarding Joel's contract. We'll get to that on our agenda. Obviously, he's not here this evening. So my thought is that we could table that until he is here. But then I've just got a couple ideas as well. I know that I have been approached by a couple different council members about some issues or some things that he had wanted changed in that contract. And I think it would be best if we try to compile what those are. And then we can kind of present those to him in some way. So he's aware of that and can make any changes. So I can either gather all those if anybody wants to send their concerns to me. Otherwise, I had also thought about if we wanted to do a subcommittee to kind of enter into some negotiation with him. So just something to maybe think about in the meantime until we get to that item. But my recommendation would be to table the actual discussion and approval until he's here to address any questions or concerns. So, anything else? No? All right. So next on the agenda, we have a presentation from the Allegan County Health Department regarding recycling funding. And I believe it's Rosemary, correct?
Yes.
So Rosemary, I'm going to invite you on up to the podium.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm Rosemary Graham. I'm the Allegan County Resource Recovery Recycling Program Coordinator. I just have to say, every time I walk into the building, it's just as beautiful as the first time I walk in. So it makes me feel warm and welcome here. So I do, the Resource Recovery Program is diverse. It has a lot of different service areas and funding, the funding mechanism has different levels of funding. So do you want me to give a broad overview? I just like to ask before I kind of dive in, is there something specific you want me to focus on, or are you more looking for just that broad overview? Are there any questions that you want me to hone in on, or just wait till the end?
I was more for a broad overview unless anyone had anything
Okay,
specific
okay. And
to
then
start with? No? Okay.
any time that you want me to make sure that I keep it to, because I can, I could go on talking.
This runs until 7, our
Okay,
study
I won't-
session, so I think you've got
Okay.
whatever time you need,
I
most likely.
won't keep anyone that long. So I do have a couple of copies of the most recent voters surcharge election packet. Does anyone want a copy of this while I'm speaking? I've got 2 copies here. They're nice and neat, so I didn't print out that many, but. Okay.
I'm a paper person.
All right. So we use the funding mechanism through the state called PA 69 of 2005. And that offers 2 different means to fund recycling in a community. Both of them have to be through an interlocal agreement between the local community and the county. That's required under PA 69. One level is to go out to vote. The Board of Commissioners approves that amount, which they've approved for $50 per household. It goes out to the voters if a municipality decides to place it on their ballot. And then the voters, approve that, and if approved, all households pay the recycling surcharge on their winter property taxes. At the $25 amount, that does not have to go out to vote. That can be approved by a board or a council, and it goes on all winter property taxes for residents, but it's discretionary, so they can opt out of it. They didn't vote for it, so they don't actually have to pay it. So we have 4 municipalities that still operate under the $25 discretionary amount. And then the remaining, so we have 18 participants total, so the remaining participants have gone out to vote at the $50 amount. And so part of the reason for that is that the idea of partnering with the county and utilizing this funding mechanism is to kind of help offset some of the costs. So at the $25 amount, it won't necessarily offset all the costs related to a full recycling program for your residents, but at the $50 amount currently, it does usually cover most of those service-related fees. And so what kind of services are available through the county's resource recovery program? Each municipality has either a curbside program or a drop-off program. The curbside programs, some have twice monthly collection or every other week, and some have once monthly. And so that kind of depends on working with a vendor through a request for proposal and bid process to kind of work through the numbers and determine what works for a community, what's financially feasible, the frequency of those pickups with a hauler. We have recycling depot sites, which are really for difficult to recycle materials. And so we partner with Broken Arrow Recycling, and we partner with Salem Township Transfer Station. And residents are able to recycle tires, appliances, electronics, including even a big TV. We still have those CRTVs floating around in communities, monitors, and styrofoam. Broken Arrow Recycling also collects cardboard and paper, and Salem Township collects commingled single stream at their site. We have year-round household hazardous waste collection. We accept batteries from residents year-round. Few of our municipalities have battery buckets at their township or city where residents can just bring it in, and then when it's full, give me a call and I would come pick those up. We have Sharps drop-off at the health department that's year-round. Residents can pay out of pocket if they're not part of the program, but if they're part of the program, we roll that into and cover it with the fees collected under PA 69. We have regional recycling events. So we have 3 household hazardous waste and electronics collection events every year for residents. It's just a drive-through and drop-off. We register them on site, and then they're able to drop off those materials if that's convenient for them on a Saturday. Otherwise, we have that weekday drop-off for household hazardous waste in our partnership with Broken Arrow for electronics at other times that are convenient. We also have 3 scrap tire collection events every year. We usually have 4 semi-trucks that we fill to the point where we can barely get the doors closed. This past year, there was a need for some to recycle oversized tires, and we were able to partner with another state grant that the county received so that we could accommodate oversized tires instead of just regular sized tires, and we're hoping to be able to continue that. I'm also serve an administrative function, which would be customer service questions, phone calls, emails from residents that are curious about how to recycle something if it's recyclable, where to go in the county if it's a part of the program, or if it's not. There are a few items like that can be recycled. There's just a matter of going to that company or vendor that would recycle that and helping that connect them to those resources. I coordinate and plan all of the events and volunteers and the depot sites, all of our agreements with vendors for curbside drop sites, depot sites, all the different material streams and the vendors. I coordinate all of those agreements, as well as with municipalities specifically. If a municipality were to decide that they wanted curbside, I would work on the RFP, releasing the RFP, collecting the bids, reviewing the bids with the municipality, and then implementing any of those program changes. The county is able to handle all invoices and payments related to the program. We use Eden software to record all of that information, so we have available financial reports whenever a municipality may be interested. Our program, my program specifically, implemented a method to describe invoices so that we can easily filter them. So even if a municipality wanted to know how much did we spend on household hazardous waste 2 years ago, I can put it in a spreadsheet and tell you exactly how much you spent on household hazardous waste 2 years ago. We try to send out, we do send out an annual report every year, and we also try to send out a semi-annual report and any other financial or tracking or reporting information that one of our communities is interested in. We try to accommodate that. Let me see. So this program is for residential properties only. We don't accommodate the household hazardous waste for businesses, just because the program fee is either $25 or $50, and so that usually covers about what a household would require for services related to the program, but it certainly wouldn't cover what a business might need. We do have a partnership with one community in the county that is for household hazardous waste and events only, and so that looks a little bit different. They don't utilize PA 69. They're either using their general fund or some other funding mechanism, but through interlocal agreement with the county and the Resource Recovery Program, their residents are able to attend our events, and they're able to drop off household hazardous waste. And so we still have a flat rate per household, and then there's usage. And so if their residents attend an event, we register everyone that comes with their name, phone number, and address, and what they dropped off, so that when we have an invoice, we know how to share that invoice because we know where everyone was coming from that dropped off material. And the same thing with the permanent household hazardous waste collection facility at the county. When someone drops something off, we record the same information so that we can share that fee. And then what the county does with this municipality that we're partnered with is the county pays the invoice, and then we invoice the municipality for that balance, and we provide them with any financial information that they might request to support that. So that is also an option. Let's see. So that pretty much covers and summarizes the program pretty well. A couple other points of interest is that Allegan County is currently partnering with the West Michigan Sustainable Business Forum for the state's Municipal Measurement County Engagement Grant. And what that grant will do is look at Allegan County as a whole, not just the Resource Recovery Program and its participants, but the county as a whole. And they will provide an assessment and a final report outlining strengths and weaknesses of recycling and materials management in Allegan County. And that report will provide some recommendations to the county. The county may then utilize that information in future planning efforts. And so part of that is that I'm collecting feedback from municipalities, and some of you may have received an email with a survey, a SurveyMonkey survey, that just asked if there were any specific areas relating to recycling or materials management that was of interest. And if you did not, please email me, because I can still incorporate that into what information I provide to the Sustainable Business Forum. So if it's composting that's of interest, you can let me know that composting at the county level as an offering is something that the city's interested in, or funding, if there's a different funding mechanism, so that it wasn't funding reliant upon an interlocal partnership, but some other type of either countywide or other method, or anything really. Any feedback is welcome. Just provide that to me or to Joel or Delora, and I will incorporate that. And I will do so with some anonymity, so your name won't be attached to your feedback necessarily, because we're just looking for the collective pulse of the county, and not necessarily drilling down into those specifics. Another point of interest is that the county is wrapping up and about to publish, they may have already, the national results of the National Community Survey that the county conducted over the past couple of months. I think it was in August. So that was just a broad survey of community members across the county. I was able to place 4 questions on that survey regarding recycling materials management. I tried to form those questions around another survey that the University of Michigan did. They surveyed elected officials across the state regarding recycling and materials management. And what they found, to sum up their entire huge survey, was essentially that there's a lot of interest from elected officials across the state in recycling and materials management, but there's a hesitancy because they're not sure, generally speaking, like what the residents really want and how much the residents really want to spend on this. So there's an interest, and perhaps personally they would want that for themselves, but not ready to take that step for their community as a whole. So on our Allegan County National Community Survey, I did ask residents what level of interest they have in recycling and materials management. And there was a very high percentage that said they were interested in recycling materials management. I asked them if they felt like household hazardous waste was easily accessible, and there was a general feeling that it's not. I asked another question that's not coming to me right now, but probably the most important question was, I asked residents if they would pay more for recycling services, or would they pay more if it meant that they would have access to additional recycling services. And the answer was generally split down the middle, which was surprising, because usually if you ask somebody if they want to pay more, they're going to say no. So I thought that was promising, that it wasn't a no. It wasn't quite a yes, but it definitely wasn't a no. So that was interesting, and something that I hope to share more broadly as our elected officials across the county in different capacities have to make these decisions about recycling and materials management, trying to gauge how much do your residents really want this, and how much are they willing to potentially pay for this, so. Do you have any questions for me?
Thanks, Rosemary. Do you have a question, Peter?
Yeah, you said the businesses, if we were to do curbside, wouldn't get curbside, but would they be paying the fee?
So businesses are not.
It's only
um,
residential's?
It goes on residential property taxes. We have worked with some communities in some capacities to incorporate that through a payment of the same amount for a cart, the same as someone would have in their home. And so we've accommodated that.
Okay, so, yeah, because I noticed my cart per year is like $24 for my two times a month for recycling currently through Republic.
Okay,
So that's why I'm concerned if I go and charge $50 a month. I understand the hazardous materials.
it's a year.
A year. Well, this is $24 a year is what I pay, not per month, for the year. Mm-hmm. Got the bill right here. Just went and called them last week. It's $24 a year. So that's where I go, okay, what is the current, and I understand the, like, need for possible hazardous materials. That's the only area that I'm kind of like, okay, would we elect to have the 25 per month without a vote? Would we want to do the 50, or no, sorry, a year, 25 a year, or the 50 a year? Just for that ability to have the hazardous material capabilities that currently our residents don't have, because we also do once a year cleanups that we're already currently paying for, dumpsters for people to come and bring household waste in essence and other things in the yard. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around on what would this provide
Yeah.
for our citizens?
So a couple of things come to mind. One would be, yes, I've never heard of $24 per year. So if that's your rate, that's awesome. I would wonder if that's the experience of your community members and what they're paying as a monthly or annual rate, and making that decision for the whole community and not just based on one single.
Well, I just
Example?
called them last week because I had to take care of the bill, because of course they expand the bill every year, and it's like, okay, let's bring this back. But they didn't say there was any change in the recycling cost, and so it was
I
staying at
think
that.
That's great.
But
And
I
if
think-
that was how much
And then
a
I
resident could pay, I probably wouldn't be standing here.
think Republic is the only one that offers it in town as recycling, I believe,
Yes, I
So-
believe you're correct.
because I checked with a couple others, and
Yes,
The price.
so, sometimes, cities are at an advantage because you're more densely populated. So if we were to go out to bid, we would hopefully attract some of those haulers that aren't operating here because they'd have a guarantee of a dense population to provide service to. So potentially it could be a hauler other than Republic, but Republic is kind of ubiquitous across the county right now with recycling, and they'll bid on all contracts.
and I think we also have currently in the works the downtown trash system, and we've also talked about single hauler, and we've still been in discussions as a council about that. And if we were going to go that way, I of course do as a single hauler, that recycling is included in it, so we'd already kind of incorporate that, but it's the hazardous materials and the other
Yes.
things, that's why I'm more interested in that than just the recycling.
So we can still function with a single hauler, and we can still function, we have a municipality that contracts for their bulky waste and recycling in an RFP. At that point, the PA 69 funding mechanism would serve to offset, potentially depending on how that single hauler was structured. But there is a requirement for all participants that all residents have access to recycling through that funding mechanism, whether that means that all residents have a curbside cart or have access to a curbside cart if they choose to have one, or there's a drop site container for that material to be dropped off at, and whether that container is, in one location or you partner with a business, but that there's something that's being paid for with these funds to ensure that any resident could then drop off recycling materials. And so one city in the county, they utilize the $25 amount. They also have a millage that they utilize for whatever additional amount that they need for some of the services that they're providing. And so considering some of those alternative funding mechanisms like a millage, that would allow the city to enter into a household hazardous waste and potentially event-only agreement, and then still have the, I guess, control over the funds. Basically, you wouldn't be sending them to the county to hold on to.
Did anyone else have any questions for Rosemary? Okay.
I'm available if you have any other questions, or if you find that you just want me to come back. Sometimes this is a process that unfolds over the course of years. I talked to Valley Township for probably 3 years. They just recently went out to vote. It passed. We're hoping that we're going to have curbside ready to go for all of their residents and throughout the course of the next year. So it can take a long time, and I'm happy to come back if there are additional questions.
So Rosemary, at that point, then the county actually handles all of the contracts, like the bidding, the
In
maintenance?
cooperation with the
Okay.
municipality, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all signatories on the same agreement, but the administrative tasks, the county will, yeah.
And as far as like the drop-off, like if there was a centralized drop-off, are those funds, like the PA 69 funds, used to construct that, or how?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could use those funds if we needed to construct. So thinking of drop sites, usually there's like a cement pad, a determination whether or not it should be fenced. Security cameras are good because contamination does occur. Some municipalities handle contamination on their own. Some municipalities will ask me to like send a letter and some pictures to notify the resident, like, we know that you put something in here that you weren't supposed to. We're aware, don't do it again. Yes, so I would step in and largely take on the majority of those tasks, and helping also discuss those questions about what it's going to look like for your community and how it's going to work best in your community.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming in tonight, and I don't know if you saw, but one of our goals under number 3 over there is to strive to be a more environmentally conscious and active community. So this is something that I feel may be discussed in some degree.
Yeah, and let me know if you would like me to come back, or if you have a specific interest in household hazardous waste only, or exploring alternative funding mechanisms. I can talk to you about that as well.
Great. Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. And you can feel free to leave, Rosemary. You don't need to. I think you've probably been through this before, but thank you. Okay, so next we have a presentation from the Water Utilities Department and Consumers Energy regarding solar and renewable energy options for the water plant. Doug?
All right, so I'm not sure if all of you are aware that the water plant, when it was constructed in 2010, it has a solar roof on it. The whole back side of it is a solar roof. There are 2 inverters in the building that convert it and feed power back into the system after the meter, so whatever the plant uses of the solar energy, whatever additional is required comes to the meter. For the past few years, we've been trying to keep the system going, doing repairs, having repairs done on it. Currently, only 50% of the system is operational. We've been working with Windermere Electric. They're the representative of that brand of equipment. The equipment we have in there currently is now obsolete, and they cannot get parts to fix it anymore. Windermere Electric then proposed 2 different systems, possibilities, a new roof-mounted one or a ground-mounted solar array by the water plant. Both presentation or returns on investment were in your packet. Depending if the city would qualify for federal tax credits or not, it's either a 13-year or 18-year payback on them. My feeling is the current system only lasted about 10 years, less than that actually when we started to have to do repairs. So, you know, I don't really see that as a viable option to go with at the water plant. In addition, the solar, the roof would only provide approximately 10% of the power needed for the water plant. The ground array was about 20 to 25% of what was needed. So it doesn't take it off the grid. It just supplies, you know, some of the power. After seeing the presentations from Windermere, what they had to offer, we then contacted Consumers Energy because we know that they have different options. Initially, it was looked at just a system on site for the water plant to replace the roof system. Basically, what was the available either roof space and or ground space was not enough to provide enough space for consumers to install a system there for just the water plant. Consumers then looked at the entire city account, what all we used, water plant, wastewater plant, all the city buildings, and they recommended a renewable energy program. So went through all that. I'm bringing that here to council tonight for review. Get your comments and if we should proceed further on that. To go over the Consumers Energy Renewable Energy Program, Dave from Consumers Energy is here. I'll turn it over to you, Dave.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks for making some time to talk about recycling and renewable energy. Like, what a great evening. So I'm gonna be really high level with our renewable energy program. We can get into the details kind of as we go through questions. But our program is structured to try to solve for this issue, right? Like, okay, we're talking ROAs, we're talking payback, we're talking capital investments by cities and other municipals, other large customers. How can the utility help enable our large customers to hit their renewable energy goals, increase the amount of adoption of renewable energy? But how can we do that in a way that fits with their business or their municipal needs, right? Like, you guys don't have a bunch of money you're just like looking to throw at renewable energy projects. So how can we as a utility help? And so what our program does from a very high level, thank you, from a very high level is we, on behalf of our customers, every year we go out and we build a utility scale solar installation for the customers that have contracted that year for additional renewable energy. So as of right now, all of your municipal loads served by Consumers Energy have 15% renewable energy, and so that's just a base part of our service. And if you want to go to 50 or 100%, then we have to do something creative in order to accomplish that. And so we've got this program. There's many programs. The program that we're talking about, the Large Customer Renewable Energy Program, LCREP, we'll just call it LCREP if that's okay. It's a program where we say, okay, if the city of Allegan would like to be 50%, 100%, whatever percentage renewable energy, then we, on your behalf, will go out and build a utility scale solar. In this instance, it'll be a solar generation facility, and you guys will be the benefactor of the output of that. And it's basically just sits right on top of your existing bills, and you get basically 3 line items. The first is a lease cost for the portion of the solar generation site that is attributed to your load. And then there's two basically credits. One is for the renewable energy credit, the REC, and then the other one is for the actual generation that we on your behalf sell out onto the grid. So there's those 3 line items. The hope is that after your lease payment, that you would be cash flow neutral or cash flow positive. It won't happen all the time. So far this year, customers who've been participating in the program have seen net payments of over $2 million. And as, you know, okay, so if we think about, you're getting, you're seeing costs, utility costs increase, right? Like natural gas, like all of that stuff, like costs are increasing. And once we have this generation asset, hopefully for the next 25 to 30 years, those costs, the lease cost will be flat. And so as utility prices go up, this will remain flat, and the lease payment. And so you will end up receiving what we would anticipate to be a credit. And there's, I think, 4 or 5 slides in. It will kind of talk through some of those credits. But like I say, as of Friday, when I asked, it had been net payments of just over $2 million to customers in the program. So I think maybe one more. Yeah, these are like utility price projections through 2045. And so depending on who you're looking at, there's all of them end up with a net credit that would be on your bill. Just depending on who you're looking at, you may see it sooner. So there's the I don't want to sit up here and say, hey, yeah, you guys just sign this contract and you're going to be 100% renewable and you're going to see credits. Depends on what the cost or what the energy market looks like. But so I'll stop there, and I will gladly get into details, and we can do that if there aren't any questions. But I'll stop there and ask for questions just in the program structure in general.
Couple. The solar field, is that all LEED certified?
Is it LEED certified? I don't know.
Meaning
the
no
answer to
heavy
that.
metals, no lead, it's LEED.
Yeah, no, I know the acronym. I don't know the exact materials that it's going to be constructed with. I
Okay.
don't know.
Then you talked about the energy cost is increasing.
Mhm.
It seems like consumers kind of is the producer that keeps shutting off production, causing the increase. So the program becomes viable because you guys kind of stop generation, or I'm trying to wrap my head
Yeah.
around like,
Well, so if we look at, so our generation fleet is roughly 30% natural gas right now. And there's a portion of it that's coal, and by 2025, we're gonna shut down all of our coal plants. But so that is true. But we still have more than enough capacity for our customers. We're trying to switch from a more carbon intense fuel to a less carbon intense, which is
Natural gas.
natural gas. Yeah.
which of course will cause a natural gas spike, but because as you bring more power plants on using natural gas, there's a limited amount of natural gas. So it's of course going to cause the natural gas cost to go up as you bring more online. It kind of rolls into itself, causing this energy increase over time, and I'm just not quite sure I want to be a part of that with consumers, because consumers has shifted significantly from power generation to power transmission on a lot of things. So you're not as big of a power generator. You shut down quite a few of your production plants and shifted and sold off quite a few of them to other generators.
Well, so we've also purchased and built some. So we just bought the natural gas plant. There was a Zealand plant.
Yep.
We purchased that, and there was, I think it's in Tetford in Jackson, another plant. So it's not a wholesale, shuttering of our plants.
So the biggest concern I have, of course, is going on hope that it pans out that our energy cost is maintained.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't like the term hope when it comes to trying to figure out financials for the city. I like the idea. I thought maybe the idea was a little bit different than, I was trying to figure out the presentation beforehand, and I was just like, how exactly does this all work?
Yeah.
And I definitely have to review a bit of it to get a good understanding if it's going to be viable for us, or if it's better that we do our own solar generations. Although it seems like at 10-year lifespans of solar systems having such large maintenance issues, I don't know if they would ever offset the actual investment. So I don't know if that would ever kind of come net positive on it.
And you had more of that you were going to present as far as the program, is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wanted to kind of take just in general on the overview of the program, if there's any questions, and then we can kind of go slide by slide, or however in depth you want to go. Yep.
So just a couple quick ones, and I don't know if I missed this. Is the lease is it a permanent lease or is it a lease to own? Do we eventually own the equipment?
No, Consumers Energy will own
You'll
it
always
for the
own it.
life, and we'll even take care of the decommissioning if you guys want. After 25 years, if there's another technology that makes more sense, that's built into our, right now, we're going out for a request for a proposal. And so when we get that, it'll set a fixed lease cost for the period of, 25 years is probably what the
25 years
lease
would be the term.
That price would be fixed. Right now, all of these financials are built off of $64 per megawatt hour, but we anticipate it's going to come in lower than that, which makes the economics look even better. But once we have the actual fixed cost, which we'll have in the coming months, then we levelize your lease effectively, and that will remain constant throughout the 25-year duration.
Okay. And kind of going back to Peter's last point, so, unless I just missed this, so over the course of the 25 years, there's going to be some obsolescence, and will the equipment be upgraded throughout the 25 years?
Consumers Energy will
Yeah,
take care of
okay.
all of that, yep.
And that's included in the lease?
We take care of the maintenance, if things fail, we come out and replace it and do all of that stuff, absolutely, yep.
Great, thanks.
And then also included, which municipals, a lot of times, they have questions around, at the end of it, you don't want to be stuck with, something that, ends up being an eyesore or, that then has to be cleaned up. We'll take care of all of that. We'll either, whatever makes more financial sense at the end of its life, we'll either replace it and keep generating with the, with new solar panels, or we'll decommission it and pull it all out. All of that pricing is included in the lease cost.
Go ahead, Dave.
One thing I'm trying to understand, so we're leasing an asset that produces power, and then Consumers is selling the power from that asset on the market, and we're getting credit for it?
Effectively, yeah, we're passing through. So you're going to receive all of the benefits of the power that's being generated. So we'll talk through those a little bit. So there's renewable energy credits. Think of that like if you wanted to be renewable, if you wanted to be 100% renewable tomorrow, you can go out on the market and buy national RECs. It's effectively like a barcode on a kilowatt hour that's produced that says, yeah, this was produced at a wind plant in Iowa, and you purchase that to say, yeah, it's not the electrons from that plant, right? But it's the right to say, yeah, that's a renewable energy resource that we contributed to. So that's one aspect of it. You would get all of those, and we would retire the RECs on your behalf, or you could retire them if you want. That's in the contract, but most people, we retire them on their behalf. And then you also get the generation, we'll call it. So that generation, it goes into the grid, and you get the real-time pricing for it, which is very interesting for a solar asset, because the solar will be generating typically at times when power prices are a little bit higher. And so we're talking, this is like a real-time pricing component. Whereas right now, if you were to look at your bill, there's no real time. There might be like some on and off peak hours. As a utility, we're trying to shield our customers from, the really volatile swings, because it typically costs more. Well, with a solar asset, you're taking advantage of those volatile swings and selling power typically into the grid on July 10th, at 2 p.m. when prices are the highest. So you can take advantage of it on that side. And then there's also the capacity credits, which it's a little bit less valuable, but it's effectively saying we have this generation asset. It's this much capacity. We bid that into MISO, which is the group that oversees the transmission grid, and they give a certain value for any generator that's on the system. Again, we pass that through to you guys.
Do you charge the same amount per megawatt that you got from carbon-based fuel versus solar or green? Is green energy more valuable in that market, or?
Okay, this is a really, really, really cool thing, and why we'll talk about solar as being so valuable. So, For the utility, if you were to look at a base bill, depending on what type of customer you are, there's typically some time or some demand component to it. So it's not like real-time pricing, but we're trying to send price signals. Look, from 2 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, there's a lot of usage on the grid, especially in the summer, because people are turning on their air conditioning and running it. So it's a little bit more expensive during those times. So those are kind of on-peak times. The rest of it's off-peak, right? So there's some components to pricing. This is true real-time. So if it's that same July 10th where on your base bill, we're trying to send some price signals, hey, instead of 9 cents a kilowatt hour, we're at 12 cents a kilowatt hour or something like that. The actual market could be $1 a kilowatt hour or more. And again, we're kind of shielding customers from that because we've got a blended generation mix. So within our base rates, there's that mix that we kind of talked about, the 15% renewable energy, and then depending on what year exactly we're talking about, roughly 30% natural gas, and up until 25, there's a component of coal. Again, we're going to be phasing that out, and the rates are a reflection of our generation mix as a whole.
So will there be times where we're charging more for the energy that is coming out of our leased asset than what we're paying as we're consuming energy?
Can you ask that question one more time? I think I understand it, but one more time.
So we're getting credited for energy being sold from the asset we're leasing.
Yep.
That's a line item.
Yep.
But then we're also paying for energy that we're using as a city as a separate line item.
Okay, yeah, so this does sit on top of your bill, so you get 3 additional line items. So it's the lease and all of the generation output. So there are legacy, costs and everything that are in your bill. If you think about it, let's think about it on a yearly basis. If it's January, you may not see, you likely won't see credits, right? Like it'll likely be a charge. July, it'll likely be a credit. The year as a whole, again, if we're looking at it this year, it's been, on average, so far $2 million net savings for our customers in this program. If we just looked at January or February, that likely wouldn't be the case. So this will vary each month.
In the case of July, where we're producing energy that's being sold, and then we're also consuming energy that we're paying for, will those prices per megawatt hour be the same?
Your bill as it stands currently won't change except for the addition of those 3 line items. The lease cost and then the credits.
Okay.
Well, I don't think I quite got the answer out of that. So when we sell this power from the leased asset, is it being sold at retail price? Is it being sold at wholesale price? Is there a different price compared to, say, we buy power at 13 cents a kilowatt hour?
Yeah.
Are we selling that energy that's being produced from the solar grid at that 13 cents, at less than that 13 cents, or more than that 13 cents?
Yeah, and that will vary hour to hour. I don't know if you have internet kind of.
Okay, so the question why I asked that is because, of course, if we have our own generation, it's just being offset at the 13 cents. If we net meter up, usually it would be sold at wholesale, correct? If we actually spin the meter backwards?
Yeah, okay.
With our own solar system?
Yeah. Okay, so here's a really cool dynamic, and I don't care what you guys do. I just want to see more renewable energy on the grid. So if you guys were to be able to do something behind the meter, you're offsetting both generation and what I would call the transmission charges.
And the 20% transmission losses that are in there as well. So.
Right. So you're able to offset both of them, which is why if you're able to do it at a large enough scale and you're able to offset both of those, sometimes the economics can look more favorable. There's a very public, I can freely talk about it because it's been reported widely. The city of Grand Rapids did one with my parent company, CMS Energy, 1 megawatt solar. It was behind the meter, net cash flow positive project. That was really cool, but they had enough land and it was behind the meter of a large enough load. We don't have, that was the first thing that we looked at. We don't have that here.
Yeah, because I think of our airport property as a large landmass that could take on a bit of solar.
Yep.
So that's one area, but if
Yep.
it's only on that meter, or is it combined with our other meters, is the
Yep.
question as far as net metering.
Yep. This is a way to get it to all meters, whereas if it's behind a meter, we
Is it-
can't transfer, we can't push that load back to the grid.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, but I'm gonna be selling it probably at wholesale, not at the price I paid when you spin the meter backwards usually. Because we don't do net metering in Michigan, do we? Because some states do it differently. When you spin the meter backwards, you're paid wholesale prices rather than retail prices.
Right, so we have different programs, so it's hard to talk but in general, if your solar installation is behind the meter, you're offsetting both generation and transmission. If you're then pushing it back onto the grid, so if you're generating more than you can use on site, that's typically just paid at the generation, like a wholesale cost. We do have there's other programs, but for the most part, yeah. Okay,
Are there any other questions? No?
Do we want to get more into, like I say, I could go another half hour, 45, like as long as you guys want it. If we get further into the details, it can get fairly complex, but I like to keep it super high level because at a high level, the program is very easy to understand. We're going to go out on your behalf, build a solar asset for you. You're going to receive all of those benefits. And in return, there's going to be a fixed lease cost for the course of 25 years. Again, those are projection. We can get into the cost projections more deeply, but as utility costs, for whatever reason, as they're going up, it's not perfect, but it's a hedge against those increasing costs.
I know for myself, I'm good at the higher level. So I don't know how anybody else is feeling. Good. Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to add about that program?
I would say the only thing, so it's an annual program that we try to get subscriptions signed by this time of the year. Technically, I'm supposed to have all subscriptions by September. I can flex that out a little bit if needed. But it's not like a one-time deal. Like if you guys weren't ready to move forward, we can do it again, next year, next summer. Like it's no pressure. Just letting you know that for this latest build, we're gonna close, relatively soon, and then we'll start taking participants for the next build.
Okay, and you said the deadline would have been when? End of?
Technically, it's the end of September. I can
No.
go into
Okay.
October though.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for the information. Did anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Great.
Doug, did you want to add anything?
No, I do just, I guess in moving on, if council continues to be interested in this, just let me know and we can keep it going. Or if council is not interested in going this direction.
So getting back to what we currently have, is there a way just with the costs and all of that, like decommission that or what are your thoughts with what we've got now?
Decommissioning is the one inverter that's left, we can just let it keep going and putting what power it does generate into the water plant, and at some point that one will fail also. The panels on the roof are 10, 11 years old, so they're highly inefficient compared to what they have nowadays. What Windermere had proposed, the on-roof system, would basically generate twice as much power as what our system new did 10 years ago. So it's just the efficiencies in the equipment has improved that much. So, it's just a matter of looking at how far do we want to go? Do we want to just say, hey, when this is done, it's done? Or do we want to, replace in kind, try and go a little bit bigger, or go larger scale? What I have seen to go, to be able to generate enough for, whether it's the water plant, the wastewater plant, there's not enough property by either facility to, power the whole plant, take it off the grid. As Dave was explaining, as Peter alluded to, out at the airport, there's a lot of ground. We had actually thought about by the Hooker, water tower too, but the usages at those areas is not there to be able to wire it in before the meter. It's not, it wouldn't be able to supply enough, to offset for the water plant. So what I saw in the program that Consumers is offering is we pay for it and they maintain the whole system, update it when necessary. So basically, it's a hand-free operation, so.
Thanks, Doug. And thank you, Dave.
And one thing, we kind of talked about this, Doug and I, because you guys have the other solar installation, right? This program does play nice with other things that you're looking to do. So if you wanted to install your own solar installation, we can just back off what we're producing, what we're earmarking for you through this installation. So again, our goal, my goal is to help enable new renewable energy on the grid. And if you guys end up being able to or want to do a project of your own, we can definitely, we can flex up and down the amounts in this program. So, yeah.
I think Peter had another
I
question.
just, question for Doug, did you have the windmill or proposal, or just I know we had just like the two sheets?
I did not have them electronically, I have them on my desk.
Okay, if you could, I would like to see them, just see kind
Yeah,
of what
I
they're
can
proposing.
scan them in and send them to you.
I don't know if they're like using microinverters or doing a centralized inverter system again, direct AC coupling. Are we gonna have any batteries to offset or
It
to
was,
band
I know
damper?
there was no storage. I'll say what you're asking is kind of beyond where Zach, manager at the water plant, he talked with Wendell Miller, got all the information and pretty much passed it on to me. I looked at the return on investment sheets and, went from there.
Sounds good.
But I can scan those in and
I
send you a copy.
just wondering what they're proposing and what it
I,
looked like.
like I say, I know there was no storage on site. What type of units, I would have to look through the proposals also.
All right.
Anything else, council? No? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So next up, we've got a discussion regarding various public works purchases. Doug?
I can do a short introduction if you'd like, but I think you're going to be more knowledgeable than I, Doug. So included in your agenda packet were three different requests for three different purchases regarding new equipment at the DBW. And each memo, each report kind of breaks down, overview. But if you have specific questions on that equipment, that's something that Doug will be knowledgeable in being able to answer as to what, needs this equipment meets and how they could benefit the DPW.
On the street sweeper, if you recall, about a month ago, you okayed the Public Works Department to lease a unit for 2 months. That'll be up in end of October. We still have not received that pump for our 1996 unit. That's probably not until the middle part of October, so we should be covered there. In the meantime, we did explore some replacement units refurbished by Bell Equipment, very similar to the one that you see on the screen, which is, I think, the one that we're leasing right now. And this one that we're proposing to purchase for $125,000 has been owned by Bell Equipment for the past 7 years, and they use it as a lease machine. Every time it's leased out, they take it back in and refurbish it, basically. So we're getting a well cared for machine. Right now, it's currently used, I believe you said, in Kalamazoo area. So when that lease is up, they'll take it back to the shop, refurbish everything, bring it to the city in February.
So I see like by in the report here, we're requesting an action, but we don't take action in study session. Am I looking at that right?
I figured this
It's
was
my
for
mistake, I typed them that way.
That's okay. So, yeah, I was thinking this is just kind of more of an informational situation.
Yeah, you'll notice for the street sweeper purchase request, there's a note that the funding is available in this fiscal year's budget. And then for the next two requests, that's funding that's available in the next fiscal year's budget. So it's exactly that, Delora. It's just, getting this on your radar.
Okay.
So that you know that there's some high-level purchases being considered at the DPW.
Okay. Okay, so we've got the street sweeper. And I do know that, how is that rental unit working? Is that a good piece of equipment that,
Pardon me?
the street sweeper, is that rental unit working well?
Working
It's a
very
good-
well.
Good unit
Picks
that,
up very good, and it's more efficient what the old one is.
okay, cool. And then we've got a cabin chassis for the salt truck.
Cabin chassis normally goes to the salt spreader, so hopefully we can review them in a couple of weeks and get them both approved. But again, if we don't, in the current budget is budgeted for a replacement cabin chassis. A couple of weeks ago, you did give the okay to switch that capital program purchase. And by ordering now, we won't get them until a year from now. So that was the request. So it's basically to replace a unit that we're getting rid of. In the spring, it's an older unit that we're not having good luck with, so we're looking to replace it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Roger.
So one thing I was looking at, Doug, with the cabin chassis and the salt spreader, basically together, they're about $200,000, and the note is that the funding for this in the 2024 budget is $175,000, so that puts us $25,000 over. How are we accounting for
Correct.
that?
I want to talk to Teresa about that. How I plan to account for it is in the current fiscal year, I believe we have $160,000 set aside.
Gotcha.
The purchase price of the sweeper is $125,000, so there's an
Which
additional
roll.
$35,000.
So we'll just
A
roll that
caveat
over.
on the cabin chassis is if there are any price increases seen by the manufacturer, they'll get passed on. The salt spreader unit, that company up in Dutton, I think they're a truck and trailer, they've been very good about holding their prices.
question on the cabin chassis. For retiring one of the trucks, do we kind of have a general idea of when we obsolete that, what we might get for it? And on the same note, I know we obsoleted the vacuum truck. Did we ever sell that, or are we still waiting to sell that?
I was gonna give that at the end of council meeting, but yes, it sold on auction, last Tuesday, and auction price on that was $40,525.
I think the trade-in that was offered was like 10?
Trade-in that was offered by the Haney was $10,000.
Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, yeah, if we obsolete some of this, where are we looking to make sure we take into account the whole budget? But, all right.
Any other questions, council? Okay. All right. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
So we'll just keep these on the radar and look for them to come through on the regular session. Okay. Next, we have a discussion regarding the USDA early loan payoff.
Yeah, I'm going to invite Doug Swiris up to speak more knowledgeably on this topic. But yeah, I'll just pass it off to you so I don't misspeak, Doug.
So, I'll speak mostly on the lift station. Lift station in question is the Eastern Avenue lift station, that was built in 2011. When the city built that one, we went out and got a USDA loan. They are a 40-year loan program. One of council's goals a couple of years ago was to get debt paid off. So, looking at what our fund balances are, both in the sewer fund and the general fund for the airport hangars, Tracy felt comfortable recommending that both of these USDA loans could be paid off. She asked USDA for payoff numbers, and that's what you see on the screens for payoffs by December 28 of this year. So, and then by paying them off, essentially we'll save what the annual loan payments are each year in yearly operating expenses, so we're not paying on the loan. That increases our budget, our revenue for each year in that. In addition, we do save some interest on both the loans by paying it off early.
Thanks, Doug.
So,
Peter, did you have
yeah,
something?
well, I'm just saying it's actually quite a bit, because the lift station payoff is 707,000, I see, with 35,500 annual, going to 2051, which comes to like 1.02 million if we continue to pay on it over the next years. So the payoff of 770 is on what we would end up paying 1.12, so it's about 322,000 in interest savings. So,
Teresa?
This was probably a question for Tracy, but maybe somebody else can answer it. I have to throw this out there that, are we trying to pay these loans off so that we can bond more money for the streetscape?
No, not to my knowledge.
Tracy wanted me to kind of note that by paying these off, it also saves a lot of staff time for us, because we have annual audits and annual walkthroughs with someone from the USDA. So this would save us some time, some paperwork and stuff like that. If we're able to pay it off, then we don't necessarily have, another 13 years on the one to have to prepare all those reports every year.
Yeah, and I don't know what our bonding capacity is right off the top of my head, but my understanding is we have quite a bit of room in bonding capacity still in all of our funds.
And I'll just comment on the sewer part of it. When we did went through the rate-making program a few weeks ago, when it was in question about the new bonds for the streetscape, this was still included in those numbers. So, and it was shown that the sewer fund did have money to make the portion of the streetscape payments associated with the sewer fund. So, it's not a matter of we need to pay this off to be able to afford it on the sewer side.
Were there any other questions for Doug?
What, we obviously can't take action here, but is this gonna come up before council at some point? I'm assuming?
Yeah, so I guess that's a little bit of confusion that I'm having with these last
Yeah, I noticed
few
on
agenda
Tracy's
items.
report that it said, ask for council's permission or recommendation
Yeah.
to pay it off.
So we would either need to get this on the next agenda. If the payoff amount is through December 28th, then
Yep.
Okay,
our
fine.
October 11th meeting should be fine.
I think this
Nikki?
was more just to gauge whether you guys would be interested in doing this, to kind of put it on your radar again.
Okay.
To know that might come down the line if council was interested in proceeding with that.
Thank you. Did anyone have any discussion about that, or is this something that you'd like to pursue? I
I-
think the amount of money that's being saved by paying them off early is
I think so.
significant.
The airport, I think, when I just run the quick numbers, about 88,000 in interest. The other's like 325, so you're roughly 400K.
I wonder if these are the highest interest rate loans that we have, because it seems like we would want to target those first. And one of them's 4.25, which I think is kind of high for what we've got on the books now, but I don't know. That would be my question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Or
Well, I
Doug.
was gonna say, it's not necessarily a matter of the highest interest rate, but they're at dollar values that we can afford to pay off. So I know on the wastewater plant, the water plant, the other loans are in the millions of dollars. So, or in, over $1 million. So right now, this is 700,000 for the water fund, or the sewer fund. We can afford to pay this one off. I believe this is a higher interest rate than the SRF and DWRF loans that we have for the water and sewer funds currently. That's going by what I remember from dealing with them. But it's also a matter of what we're comfortable paying out to pay off a loan. On the other loans, we'd only be able to pay a portion of them off. So if it's a matter of getting rid of the debt, these are what the options were right now.
Thank you. As my suggestion would be, if anybody has questions about these last few agenda items, just especially if it's finance related, reach out to Tracy hopefully before that next October meeting. We'll try to, and I don't know if that she's gonna want them on that meeting or not, but clearly they'll have to come forward in a regular session. But, thanks, Doug.
Yep, thank you.
Next up, we've got a discussion regarding the June revenue and expenditure report, and obviously Tracy isn't here to really answer any questions that we'd have, but did anyone see anything that was of concern or of note that you wanted to discuss? I still really like getting these reports. I like to have that snapshot of where we're sitting.
Yeah, I was just going to preface this with what you just mentioned at the last discussion item, Mayor Andrus, but this discussion will be brief, I'm sure. We included this because it's just a regular part of your study session agendas. But if you do have those specific questions, Tracy did tell Michaela and I to let you all know that, just to give her a call or shoot her an email. And she'd be happy to answer those questions if you have anything specific regarding the June expenditure and revenue report.
Thanks, Parker.
So I have something to.
Go ahead,
Laura.
Teresa.
So are we just getting June because it was year end and we've already done July and August and we're into September? I mean, it seems like a 3-month period here where.
Yeah, so we just completed
And
our.
I know you have a certain period
Yeah.
where you can still do, what's the term I want to use? Where you can still chart monies for year end, so.
We just went through our annual audit report. So what she has included here in the memo is the fact that as of June 30th, the city's net revenues and expenditures was about 1.6 million, which is about 94% of the budget use. So I think what she was doing was just taking what initial information we got from the audit and compiling it into this June report is why you're receiving June's at this point. And then, as you know, the auditors will come, November, December meeting, somewhere in there, and they'll come give their full report to the council at that time for the full fiscal year. But my assumption is that is why you're receiving June at this time, is because the audit was just recently completed.
Yeah, and the memo just says that it's all revenue received and expenditures invoiced received as of September 16th, so.
Yeah, previous ones that we got, they were usually a couple
Usually a
months
few
because she had
months
said
back.
there's always those invoices that come afterwards and otherwise it would always be adjusting. So a couple months back, we're kind of like you pretty stable on what we're going to see for revenues and expenditures and not have stuff come in late and
Be changed.
be
later on.
changed and, yeah. Although I was going to compliment her on her budget because I looked at another municipality's budget and it was 13 pages and it was only expenses. I had to go to their audit to see anything. I was just like, oh, our budget looks so much nicer.
Make sure you send her an email.
I was.
She'd like to hear that. Anybody else have questions about the expenditure and revenue report? Okay. So next we've got a review of our council agenda. We do have an addition under agenda item 6, which is the special presentations and recognitions. This would be a proclamation that I will read about Source Water Protection Week. So we just need to amend the agenda when we get to that on our regular meeting.
Do we want to talk about tabling the discussion on Joel now, or do we do that later?
If, we've got a little bit of time if anybody wanted to talk about that more.
I think we could just, when we get to that part of the meeting, we can go over it and together kind of look if anybody had questions. And that would be the appropriate time, I think, for us to then say, well, we're not going to take action to table it then. Just kind of review it at that point of the meeting when we were going to normally.
I'm fine
Sounds good.
with that too, okay. And then just decide if we wanted to move forward in some way. Cool, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn at 6:49, so we will reconvene at 7 for the regular meeting. Okay, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call our regular city council meeting to order. Michaela, could you please do a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Zeter,
Present.
Councilmember Hands,
Present.
Councilmember Byrd,
Here.
Councilmember Redding,
Here.
Councilmember Morgan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Galloway,
Here.
Mayor Andrus.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we have agenda item number 3, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask everyone to please rise and join me in saying the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have agenda item number 4, which is an approval of the agenda. Under 4A, we have approval of the regular council meeting agenda for September 26, 2022. And as our lovely slide says, we do need to amend the agenda tonight to add agenda item 6A. So I will make that motion to amend tonight's agenda, adding 6A. Could I get a support, please?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 5A, which is an approval of minutes. Under 5A, approval of the regular council meeting minutes from August 22nd. Just as a reminder, council, we did not have study session that evening. Could I get a motion, please, to approve if there were no additions or corrections?
So moved.
Support?
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And will we be approving the closed session minutes at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Stay tuned for those at the next meeting. Agenda item number 6, we have special presentations and recognitions by mayor or council. Under 6A, which, as a reminder, this is the addition we just had, we have a Source Water Protection Week proclamation that I will be reading. Doug, did you want to say anything about this?
Yes, so source water is otherwise also known as wellhead protection. And, a lot of people that I meet, come into contact with, they think Allegan gets their water from the Kalamazoo River, which is highly not true. We have wells, we have an excellent well field that provides, plenty of water for the city. Pure water, it's tested every year. There are no PFAS, no dioxins, anything like that found in our well water. So, for Source Water Protection Week, it's just to help bring highlight to, we need to protect our groundwater. And it's not only for Allegan, it's, people out in the country, for other communities, everyone that has well water. And it's what all of us do in the area on the ground, because if something spills on the ground, it eventually gets into the groundwater, and it eventually goes somewhere. So to help bring highlight to that, by, what Proclamation, I've given Parker several things through AWWA, American Water Works Association, to put on our city website to help bring knowledge and education about source water protection also. So, and I want to thank you also for adding this to the agenda, got it to Michaela late, and then, doing the proclamation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug, and thank you for that explanation for what that is. I know that a lot of people do believe that. I also thought that, so I was happy to learn otherwise. So I'm going to read a proclamation statement in support of Source Water Protection Week. Whereas the health, prosperity, and quality of life of the City of Allegan citizens and communities depend on a reliable supply of safe, high-quality drinking water. Whereas protecting our drinking water is essential to preserve our own health and economy, and that for future generations. Whereas we strive to build opportunities and work together to ensure clean, safe source water for all. Whereas residents of the City of Allegan are encouraged to recognize this precious resource and help conserve the watersheds that are the source of our water, protect our shared water resources from pollution, practice water conservation, become involved in local water issues, and plan to protect water for future community health and economic vitality. Now therefore, as mayor of the city of Allegan, I do hereby proclaim September 25th through October 1st, 2022 as Source Water Protection Week in the city of Allegan, and urge all residents of the city of Allegan to join in supporting this observance. Thank you. Next up, we've got agenda item number 9, which is public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address council. Oh, I skipped number 8. Thank you, Teresa. So backtrack a little bit. Next up, we've got agenda item 8, which is public hearings and adoption of ordinance. So under 8A, we have a second reading, public hearing, and adoption of ordinance 504 to amend Chapter 29 of the City of Allegan Code of Ordinances. Staff.
Yes, so at your last meeting, which was held on August 22nd, you held your first reading and subsequently scheduled a public hearing for tonight's meeting. This ordinance would amend Chapter 29. If there are further questions, like I said, we discussed this at your previous meeting, but Doug is on hand to speak on it further. But we just need to hold this public hearing and subsequent adoption.
Thank you, Parker. Council, did you have any questions that you had of staff, or Doug, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think it was explained in August.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions from council, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:07 PM. I'll invite the public to come on up, and if you have any comments or questions about the amendment to Chapter 29. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:07 PM. So council, I can entertain a motion. We're looking to adopt ordinance 504.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion about this amendment, council? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now we're at public comment. So I'll repeat. This is an opportunity for the public to address council. You can step on up to the podium and state your name and address. We do have a sign-up sheet up there as well. So seeing no public comment, we will move down to agenda item number 10, which is written petitions and reports from special committees. Under 10A, we have a request from the Allegan Ugly Sweater 5K. Staff.
All
Or
right.
I can do it too.
You'll probably have a lot more information to provide than I will, but it's an annual request that we get for this organization to hold a 5K in downtown, and then we just ask that you review it, I guess.
Thanks, Michaela. So this was all in your packet, and I will be honest, I am a part of this committee. So I did do the application to the city and the letter of request as well. So in your packet, you're just going to see that we are requesting as a committee to use the Riverfront Plaza area. We do not use the Riverfront stage. And then we would also be using some city streets and need barriers, electricity down on the riverfront. So the request from the committee would be to be able to use that free of charge because we are not, again, using the stage. Last year we had over 200 people. It was our largest race ever. I think it was about 230 that were registered. So we're hoping that that's another big turnout. We keep the riverfront open for anybody to come down and check it out because everybody does usually dress up in their ugly sweaters and their Grinch costumes and things. So it's a really fun event for people just to even be spectators of. But so if you had any questions, you can let me know. I will say that last year we did pay a fee of $50, so we had the electricity and we paid for the barrier use. So
Is that the amount of the fee we would be waiving this year then?
the only fee that I'm really familiar with that would be associated would be the electricity fee and then the fees for the barriers. So, yeah. It's, I believe that the electric fee is $25.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Does the city get a sponsorship? Like,
In years past, we have always given a sponsorship for the city for the use of the downtown.
downtown?
Mhm.
Okay.
And typically, we put something up at the Regent too, so we use that as a sponsorship for the ad.
So,
I feel the fees should be waived. Last year, they did not. They had to be paid. There are other programs that don't give back to the community like this one does, that get free. This one gives back to the community. I think they should not be charged for anything.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
Well, that's why I asked the sponsorship, that we just get acknowledged as the city is providing the space and providing whatever that they need, if barriers and electricity. So we just kind of get a little note at the bottom, sponsored, so. I'm fine with that as well, so I would make a motion to approve this request.
I would second it.
It has been moved and supported. And just to be clear, I have no financial interest in this event and get nothing to gain, so I am able to call and to vote on their request, so.
The same with me, because my wife and my daughter are both involved.
So all of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries, and the committee and myself, thank you all. Thank you very much. Next, we have agenda item number 11, which is the reports from boards, commissions, and city offices. Under 11A, we have city boards, commissions, and area agencies. And 11A.1 is the Historic District Commission September meeting update. Dave?
Yeah, the only business item that we reviewed was a staff approval for some, basically it was a like-for-like replacement on some basement windows. And then for the study group, we scheduled public hearings. We sent out letters. That'll be the first week in October, Tuesday and Thursday, October 4th and October 6th. And that's a meeting where we'll be presenting findings during that meeting. We'll have posters in the board, or in the hallway, but the discussion will be really about gathering community input. So that's why we sent letters to everyone in the historic districts. All properties should have received a letter inviting them to both dates. And then we scheduled another meeting, October 17, where we'll discuss the public's input and try to integrate that with the findings we've had, with the goal of having a presentation to council in council's first November meeting. We would have a meeting in November for the HDC, do a study group, finalize our report, and then present that. I think that would be November 14th meeting.
Thanks, Dave. Next, we have 11A.2, which is Downtown Development Authority September meeting update, and I will update on that. At the DDA, the big topic of conversation was the downtown furniture. Parker had been to Pawpaw and noticed that they had the exact same furniture and lights that we had chosen as a city. So he brought that to Joel just as information, and it started a conversation. Peter, we were specifically talking about the lights and how those will meld, and we discussed that you had brought this up previously. So DDA, I felt, I don't know that they ever really came to a consensus, but they seemed to be more in favor of what we had. But I understand that we may be getting a survey to complete for council, DDA, and public spaces with some different options to just do a majority rule to see where we're going to go with it. Because the big concern was the lights that we currently have, as Peter had pointed out, are very ornate, and the new lights were very minimal and modern, and how those would kind of blend together and what to do about that. So stay tuned to get a survey. And then we also talked about the MEDC Match on Main, which is a grant opportunity for some of our downtown businesses. We put together a subcommittee that will review the applications. They have a meeting on October 12th at 7:30 to go over those applications. We're expecting 6 applicants, I believe, and we can only send 2 forward.
Correct.
So those then will come back to the DDA as a whole to vote on which to send forward. Did I miss anything, Parker?
Nope, you nailed it.
All right. So next up, we have a Public Spaces Commission September meeting, and I understand Teresa was not at the meeting, so Parker, are you able to report on that?
Yeah, most definitely. As you all know, the Allegan Event zipline towers will be relocated to the Allegan Event campus off of River Street. So that was brought up and discussed at the public spaces level as to what that board might want to see done in that space. Obviously, it's an opportunity for Allegan Event, but it's also an opportunity for the city of Allegan to continue work along the riverfront. So they bounced around some ideas for that. And we'll continue that conversation as the eventual relocation happens. We were updated from Peter Savage, who is also a member of the Friends of the Oakwood Cemetery Group, that there is a cemetery cleanup happening on Saturday, October 15th, as part of the Friends group, as well as they partner with the Christ Community Church. This is the second year that they've done this, so they'll be walking through the cemetery and picking up brush and trash and making sure that the cemetery is nice and clean before snowfall. As was mentioned at the study session, conversation just led to the board supporting a motion to establish, or a desire for the council to establish a 9-week period in the spring and the fall like we currently do. However, unlike the spring where there's a leaf and brush pickup, as you know, it's just leaves in the fall time. This board wanted to see a brush included in that time period as well. And they wanted to stick with that time period of spring and fall and continue that, schedule that we've been doing for the past couple of years rather than going through the summertime. And then, like the DDA, we discussed the Downtown Allegan infrastructure project, specifically the streetscape amenities, for exactly the reasons that Mayor Andrus mentioned, and then the general discussion that this group felt very differently than the DDA felt. The DDA more or less kind of liked what we currently have selected as the streetscape amenity package. For the most part, the public spaces really didn't care for the current selection, so they wanted to see more thought put into that. So again, like Mayor Andrus mentioned, there'll be a survey that we'll compile that'll kind of have different selections from these different packages. Some of the more traditional look, the package that we currently have, I would say is more modern in style, more contemporary. So we'll have a couple different options that we'll present to the city council, the DDA, and the public spaces, and just kind of take a vote to lead us in what direction we'd like to go to for our benches and our lamps and tables and trash cans and stuff like that. Yeah, and that was about it.
Thanks, Parker. So I did want to just bring up real quickly that leaf and brush pickup. So currently, we haven't had any brush pickup in the fall. That's something that previous councils had decided to remove as a service provided by the city in that timeframe. Sounds like DPW is going to add a week of brush pickup as well? Next week. Okay. Okay. So, council, do you feel like that's a pretty good way to start? Did you want to discuss?
I think so, because I would think a concern with the leaf part and the leaf and brushes, when you allow both, that you kind of get a bunch of brush in with the leaves, which makes it hard on the vacuum truck to go clean that up. And I kind of understand making sure that we tell people keep that separate, not in the same pile, because if you just all toss it in the pile, it's probably going to jam up the vacuum truck, right, Doug? Right. So that's part of the issue, is keep it separate. And it's nice if it's a week here before this to say, go clean up the brush.
Yeah. In the springtime, since we've been doing it on this schedule, it's always been instructed to have the two separate piles of leaves and brush. Yeah. So that part, I mean, you guys are the ones out there that are experiencing whether or not people are actually doing that, but that's always been a part of the scheduling, is making sure that they're in separated piles.
And as I mentioned at study session, we had talked about this really just in a kind of a roundabout but brief way when we were doing ordinance review. And Doug had just explained that there was some concern because in the spring, we're not doing the leaf pickup. So we've got crews that are out, pretty much daily picking up leaves where they're not in the spring. So it becomes a staffing issue. I'm very happy to hear that we're going to do some brush pickup. And I know from the minutes from Public Spaces that they had wanted storm pickup as well, like when we have storms, but we already do that, don't we, Doug, if there's a major storm? Okay. So was there any other comments, or did anyone else have any thoughts about that?
Not about that, a couple other things on the public spaces, but not.
Okay. Roger, did you have something about the leaf and brush
I just
pickup?
think it's, I appreciate you being flexible, and I know it's always, man hours or people hours are always a consideration, but just, I think it's making an effort to respond to what residents are saying, and I know, we want people to maintain their yards, and so giving them the opportunity to have brush pickup an extended week in the fall, I think is a good thing. So I appreciate you making that, or responding in that way, Doug.
Has this been known out in the community already that we're planning on doing this next week?
I just learned about it tonight at study session. So,
So that's what I'm
I
wondering
don't,
if
yeah.
Was that included in the
it's a
notice
little
in the
early,
water?
If people
don't
don't
have my
know,
Because
so.
the water bill I just opened had some notice, but I didn't see if it talked about that specifically next week being brush cleanup.
I know
We had a
it-
paper included with our water bills.
One more time?
There was a paper included with our water bills.
Yes, correct. It did not have that note about the week of brush pickup.
We'll put it out on our Facebook, I'm
Is that something
assuming,
we can
and
get out?
Yep, we can edit that on our webpage.
send out an email on the other part of the system possibly. Since
Yeah.
we have the emails for the water bills that people do electronically, we could probably blast that.
Correct.
All right. I had two other things on that, on this, on the minutes was, of course, with the zip line removal, I just want to make it clear that the Ropes Course International or whoever we lease that to is responsible for restoring that back to its original, and I just want to make sure that we get that
Correct.
clear. And whatever we want to put there, that's future, because we also have the whole riverfront. If we get rid of the dam, I don't want to invest a bunch on something that we're just not going to use later, so we got to think long-term. And then the other one was, when we're talking about the different options for that survey of the amenities for the streetscape, will that include budget differences between them, cost differences of those packages?
Yeah, I can make sure that it does. When looking at some of the options online, not everything has the price listed, so it's having to reach out to these companies. But yeah, we can make sure that that's included in the survey.
That kind of helps also to go.
Oh, sure.
And that was a big discussion at DDA, actually, is that we wanted to make sure we were at the same price points with the options that we had, so. Anybody else have anything about public spaces? Okay, next up, we've got 11A.4, which is the Planning Commission September meeting update. Roger.
So our main points of the meeting was a review of the special use permit for the Taylors, who are in attendance tonight, for a gunsmithing shop on the riverfront at 239 Riverfront Plaza, I think is the address. And Jason Derry of PCI was here, and as he reviewed their application, saw that it conformed to our ordinances, so we voted to approve that and voted to recommend it come before council for approval. So we'll be seeing that. And then afterwards, we spent the bulk of our time reviewing the city master plan. That is, we've been working on that quite a while. The plan, as we talked about it that night, is to have it completed by December. We spent the majority of our time talking about housing and what we want to see in that. We use the term infill housing, and we have a new term that I can't remember off the top of my head. What is it?
Inclusive.
Inclusive housing, which I like that. It's nice. But just trying to see how we can better help Allegan grow our tax base and our help in our affordable housing and those types of things. So our homework is that all the commissioners are to take what the plan as it exists now, because it's in flux, but we're reading through it and sending in questions and comments and seeing if we see anything that needs to be addressed. But that's what we're doing over the next month before our next meeting.
Thank you, Roger. And as he mentioned, we did at planning approve a special use permit and then recommended that to council for action. So that is our next agenda item under 11A.4A. And that is to request to approve a special use permit for 239 Riverfront Plaza. So I don't know, Parker, did you have a report you'd like to provide?
Yeah, I can share some information quickly before we get to that process. This parcel is currently classified as a C1 central, or as C1 in the Central Business District. Like Roger mentioned and is included in the memo, the request is for the Taylors who are in the audience to operate a gunsmithing business, which would be considered light assembly use in the zoning ordinance. This would consist of firearm repair, restoration, sales, transfers, and some mild modifications as part of that business. The assembly operation would occur in the rear of that space with the retail and other displays at the front of the store. At this time, there are no proposed facade changes, and then, of course, all signage would have to be approved by the HDC as it is within the historic district. This plan conforms to our master plan goal of filling street-level spaces with retail and other specialty shops. So if you have further questions, like Roger and I both mentioned the Taylors in the audience, as well as the building owners. So, yeah, I'll pass that to you.
Thanks, Parker. And I will just add that the only thing PCI had of note was a concern about possible noise of the tools that were going to be used, and that was addressed very well by your lovely wife. So thank you for doing that. And she just assured the commissioners at planning that there would be no noise. It's been in her home for a while, and it hasn't upset anything there. So would you guys like to come up and address council at all about this request? Ma'am, if we have any questions, we will let you.
Bring them on.
Ben and Tammy Taylor, obviously with Lambda Gunsmithing, so we're happy to answer any questions, but in essence, we really just want to grow the business here within the city of Allegan, and we're really looking forward to moving this forward and getting the doors opened and getting started with business. Is there anything that we can do to help the process?
Yeah, did anyone have any questions about this request for a special use permit approval? Mike?
You said PCI knew about this?
Yes. Yep. Their report is in your packet.
Because I had talked to them this morning and they had no recollection of this coming across their desk.
Oh, that's strange, because their report is in here, and Jason Deary was at our planning commission meeting, so. Yeah, everything conformed based on their review of the application against our ordinances. So I'm not sure who you talked to, Mike, but.
Do we have to do anything for the light manufacturing, or that's what this is for?
That's what it's for.
Yeah, just making sure that's what I thought it was for. Yeah.
After the repair of anything, are you gonna be test firing them?
At the range.
Very good.
Across the river, Bill, across the river.
I'll wait for 4th of July.
I'm next door to this, so yeah, I don't have any issue with this as a property owner near it or adjacent, so. And if, you could put a range in my basement, really, there's pretty long spaces, and those walls are about 12 or 14 inches thick, so you're not gonna hear anything through those walls anyways from property to
We
property.
talked about that at planning, too. That's
Yeah.
possible.
Only the upstairs neighbors, which I assume that's between you and your landlord to deal with any of that noise issues.
Okay. Teresa, did you have a question?
No.
Well, if there are no questions, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. You can have a seat. I will entertain a motion to approve the special use permit for 239 Riverfront Plaza.
So moved.
Support.
You got a lot of support. It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, if there's no further discussion, that is, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Abstain.
Thank you. So 6 ayes and 1 abstention. And thank you very much. Congratulations, and we appreciate you locating your business in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Next up, we have 11B, which is our Finance Department. Under 11B.1, a request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Teresa.
We have accounts payable in the amount of $2,507,196.30. Payroll in the amount of $239,830.68. The total disbursement is $2,747,026.98. I make a motion to approve.
Council has been moved and supported. If there's no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11C, which is our Police Department. Under 11C.1, a request to adopt Resolution 22.40, which is an adoption of the Allegan County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Parker, are you taking this one?
Yes, this one was filed under our police department. In the event of such an emergency, this is something that the PD would typically handle. So that's why it's categorized there. So last year, the Allegan County Board of Commissioners adopted a new hazard mitigation plan, which brought the Allegan County plan in line with the regulations and guidance as proposed by FEMA. In order for the city to receive any FEMA funds in the event of such a disaster, the city must adopt the Allegan County Hazard Mitigation Plan. You may recall in 2017 that there was some Kalamazoo River embankment work done behind the Parago, what was then their northwestern headquarters, or North American headquarters. The city received $4 million in FEMA grants at that time to help complete that project. So the work that we've done with FEMA in the recent past has been fruitful. So it is staff's recommendation that we adopt this plan so that we can continue to receive those funds in the event that they're needed.
Thank you, Parker. Council, did you have any questions for staff?
Are we going to get a copy of this plan? Because we're approving the use of it, but I don't see a copy of the whole plan.
So we were sent kind of a sample resolution, and it asked us to select points from said plan that we want to kind of take advantage of. So you'll see those in the resolution, which is in your packet. But yes, we can email you the whole plan if you would like.
So we're not adopting the whole plan, we're just adopting those sections?
Correct, those
Okay.
2 points or 3 points.
3 points, okay.
Yep.
Were there any other questions? Peter, that answered your question? Okay. Okay. I know we talked about like the emergency plans and stuff at ordinance review too, so it's all like melding together. Okay, so if there are no further questions, could I get a motion, please, to adopt Resolution 22.40?
Second?
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11E, our Public Works. Under 11E.1, it's a request to authorize a purchase order for West Michigan garage doors to replace 2 overhead doors at the DPW in an amount not to exceed $15,000. Doug?
Yes, the current doors, I believe, are 1978 vintage. They've been damaged a few times. They're doing the budget for replacement. We did get 3 quotes. West Michigan Garage Doors has the low quote on that. They have performed satisfactorily for the city in the past, and we recommend a contractor.
Thank you, Doug. Council, did you have any questions at all for him?
Doug, you said this is budgeted?
Yes. Well, we budgeted $18,000, so it did come in under.
Are these the rear-facing or front-facing door at the DPW?
Pardon
Are
me?
they the rear-facing or the front-facing door? I know we have like one front-facing door onto
One
the
front
street.
and one back. opposite each other.
Did we at all gonna put any graphics on it or anything like that? I know I had suggested it when you were getting quotes, you know, you can
We can.
get that nice new city logo put on it.
With that extra 3,000 you saved on the,
Well, when we did ours at the shop, I think ours was like, added like $700 to the door or less. So it wasn't a big add to the graphics.
wouldn't hurt to have that advertised out there. Any other questions, council? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Next up, we have 11F, which is city manager and city clerk. Under 11F.1, we have a request to approve the city manager's contract. Did you guys have anything that you wanted to say about that?
Other than the fact that Joel's absence tonight has been noted, so it would be staff's recommendation at this point to table the discussion, just so that Joel could be a part of that as well, since it is his contract. But obviously, you guys can proceed as you see fit.
Thanks, Michaela. And we had touched a little bit on this at study session. So I know that I have been contacted by a few council members about some questions, comments, concerns that they have with the recommended contract changes. I have some myself, so I would not be comfortable tonight taking any action on this without Joel's input, or at least being able to address those with him. I had mentioned at study session, we can try to compile that and then give him something to work with to make any changes that he wants to make. Or the other option would be to have a subcommittee put together of council members to kind of gather all that information from everybody else and then, again, kind of get together if we're going to enter into any negotiations back and forth. So, but I would suggest tabling the actual discussion and vote on his contract. So does anyone have anything they would like to pursue or to speak about?
I would second that tabling.
Yeah. I agree
ahead,
with
Teresa.
tabling it too. It's not fair to discuss it without Joel in presence, I don't think. But I think it's something we should all discuss with him, not a small committee.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Although I think your suggestion of maybe each of us emailing you what our thoughts are and then trying to compile
Okay.
something so that we've discussed it beforehand rather than it trying to do that in an open forum is pretty chaotic, I think. So if we could have maybe already come to some consensus among ourselves, does that sound fair?
That sounds like an OMA violation. Because if you're
Well, if you
trying to
said-
come to a consensus outside
No,
the
well,
meeting.
if you send
that's
them
an
all to
OMA
me,
violation.
Right.
I would say with no names or anything on that. I've done that with a couple other things, like just trying to gather information of where you're thinking.
Without violating the.
Not doing a
Open
round
Meetings
robin here.
Act.
If we're
No,
just
we
saying-
cannot.
Don't
yes,
send anything.
We
Yeah,
cannot
we cannot do that.
all
Okay.
correspond with each other.
The
but
mayor can compile.
I will compile those up and if that's
Thank
how
you
you
for
guys
that
want to proceed.
clarification, Councilmember Hans. We're not violating the Open
Did
Meetings
you know what
Act.
to do that? Anything at the end of the table, Bill? Did you have any thoughts or?
Just, I'd be curious of what some of the other ones were, are you going to give us that information or once you know it
Yep, absolutely.
before our next meeting
Yeah.
tomorrow?
I don't have them yet, but
Just teasing.
Dave, did
Thank
you?
you.
Yeah, no problem. Did you have any?
I'd support tabling it tonight.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Wonderful. So that's going to be my recommendation then, council. If you have specific sections of that contract you have concerns with or questions about, just forward those to me. I'll compile that as a list and then send that out to Joel and to all of council. So, all right, cool. So could I get a motion, please, to table agenda item 11F.1?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right. Next up, we've got agenda item number 13, which is communications from city manager, council, and mayor. City manager's not here, but how about you guys? Anything tonight?
Yeah, just quickly, obviously, Joel's absence and Tracy's absence were unexpected, so thank you for your patience in bearing with Michaela and I. We appreciate that. As was mentioned earlier, the FIT, the First Impressions Tourism Community Forum, was held on Thursday. My personal goal was to get 100 people there. We were like right around high 80s, so we were very close. The MSU presenters were thrilled with the attendance, thrilled with the venue. One of them had made it during their visits to one of our concerts. I think it was the Gordon Lightfoot tribute concert, and so they had got to explore it then. And the Griswold ended up on their review, their assessment. So it was neat for them to experience that again. So we had a good time. We had really good feedback from the presenters and from the community that attended. I can, like I said, that form or the report has been emailed to us, so I can share that with council. I shared it with our downtown lowdown group, made up of the downtown businesses. So I neglected to share that with all of you. So I'll make sure you get that report if you would like to review it yourself, as well as the live stream video option. And then the following night, on Friday, the Insiders played at the Griswold. So there was lots of buzz there at that old building. I wasn't able to attend, but Joel and Ryan held the fort down. I think there was like about 130 tickets sold, so it was a really great night from the pictures and videos that I got from the both of them. So we're looking forward to the next live show at the Griswold.
That's awesome. I'm glad that there was that good of a turnout for that, so
Yeah.
thanks for that update. Michaela, anything from you?
Nothing from me tonight.
Okay. Doug K., anything else? Doug S., anything? Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here and helping us through some of those items tonight, too. Mike, anything from you this evening?
I do. I noticed the fence was put up down here on the corner that got hit, and I had asked about that, and I was told that that was not going back up because it was in a right-of-way, and now it's all put back together and looks good.
Which fence are we talking about?
The one next to the telephone pole that created an issue.
Oh, at the corner of Cedar and Monroe there? Good, yeah, that was the property owner's responsibility, so it appears that she got it.
Right, but Joe responded to my question and said that it was not going back up because it was actually built on an easement for the road. So I was just
Interesting.
surprised to see that it finally got
Yeah.
just put back up.
Maybe reach out to Joel and see about that. Yeah. Peter, anything else, Mike?
No, not today.
How about from you, Peter?
It was great to go to the FIT presentation. I don't really do much Facebook. Did we post out the documents on Facebook as well that were now released that we got through email or?
Yes, yeah, so they gave to us the report, the link to the report, and then the link to the presentation as well. So that was posted on that Facebook event that had originally started the conversation about.
Also can we post, I don't know if we posted the video link to the YouTube video, because I did see we
Yeah.
had live video of that night.
Yep, that was included too, so.
And the other one that I wanted to address and see where we're gonna put this out to for staff would be the Griswold signage eventually. We can kind of look at, maybe if we get back together as a group here sometime, we can look at that front sign to see if we need to update it, because it's starting to really, you really can't see it from the road.
Yeah.
And then the other one was, when I was at the FIT, I noticed our handrail for, of course, our handicap accessible one that's up the side ramp into the Marilla Lounge, that we don't have any handrail going up that path. And then, of course, there's a big drop-off onto the library's side as well that I was looking at going, boy, that's probably not the best to not have a handrail up here. So that may be something in our group that we're gonna have to look at and see, because I was a little concerned, because somebody walking up that path that can't take the stairs, it'd be nice to have a handrail for them, especially at the corner where you can just fall off into the driveway. So.
Thanks for mentioning that, Peter. I've never gone in that entrance, so I wasn't aware there wasn't one there. Is that all for you tonight, Peter?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. How about you, Teresa?
I just had addressed Joel on Friday about the people who moved so nicely out of Cutler. on Cutler and piled all of their belongings by the street, and Joel got right on it. But I heard today the outcome is the homeowner had made arrangements to have someone come and pick it up. But now it's rained and it's all still there, so I would just like to ask if someone can keep an eye and address that before it gets all over the city. I heard, or I seen styrofoam already had been scattered around, so I don't know how to address that for someone to say it needs to be picked up before it's all over the place. So, but anyway, Joel got right on it. Maybe he has more information than what I have about it as well, but that was all I had.
Okay. How about you, Roger?
Just a quick question. I was wondering if we had any updates on the comedy shows at the Griswold. I know we okayed a preliminary contract, but have we gotten any dates?
No dates yet. The last time the group met, the regional asset group, you were not able to attend. So I gave a slight update to Councilmember Hands and Councilmember Redding. Essentially, that the hang up that the booking company, the Full House Comedy, is experiencing is just the fact that there's no history of stand-up comedian performances at the Griswold. So the names that they work with and book at their other venues are, recognized talent, and nobody wants to be the first one.
Sure.
Which is understandable. Yeah. So I think Councilmember Hands had offered some, some stats to gather from things like the Allegan County Fair with their stand-up performances. I had heard that Gabriel Iglesias was the highest selling concert this year at the fair. So there's clearly an attraction for stand-up comedy. So information like that would be helpful to share with Full House Comedy. A lot of the names that I know Ryan was talking to Full House Comedy about have been booked at venues like the Park Theater. Rob Schneider was one of them. He is playing, I think just played last month, and that was in consideration for the Griswold. So I think that anything that they had on the calendar for this year has already been booked and confirmed elsewhere, but Ryan still has positive conversations with the folks over at Full House, so that's a line we're continuing to follow.
Great. Thanks, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, how about from you tonight? Anything?
Does anybody on staff know when we'll see a report and maybe a recommendation on the dam powerhouse?
I do not know. Have you heard?
That's scheduled for the October 11th meeting.
Okay.
Wonderful. Your next meeting.
Okay, great. And I assume that'll include remediation. Last I heard, it sounded like there were some issues that came up in this latest engineering report.
I don't have to.
Okay.
It's been a couple weeks since I reviewed it and sent it back to them. I know that they're going to make some changes to it, upgrades to it, if you will. So.
Okay. All right, that's it for me.
Thanks, Dave. Bill, anything from you?
No, other than the FIT program that we spoke with you about it, Delora, is how we should be very proud as a council. The things that they addressed as our downfalls, we're addressing them already. They probably obviously did not know that, but we are doing it. That makes me happy and proud, so you've done a good job.
Back at you. Teresa had one more question, real quick.
This is kind of for Doug Kay. I heard there was an issue with the 2nd Street coming off of Marshall Street, that MDOT didn't like our incline or something there, that how it ended up?
What MDOT has control over, if you will, are the ADA ramps. Okay, the one on the easterly side is off on an angle, long story short, and it points people out into M89 into Marshall. They want that switch was less than a 20-degree angle that people have to turn on, so they're going to be taken out and redone. The west one is too narrow.
Okay, so is that something MDOT screwed up, or was that our engineering, or?
Not the city. The way it was designed was correct. It was approved by everybody, and it was thoroughly reviewed about 20 minutes in a GI grade inspection meeting that we had last year. It was field changed by the contractor and the engineer, not the city.
Okay,
So all the repairs are on the contractor and engineer.
okay, great. Good news. Okay,
So that's the
thank you.
ingress coming off of, M89?
It's the crosswalk.
The ADA Rats Crossing,
crosswalk.
Second Street.
I saw them out there measuring the other day, so.
Yeah.
What's the donut there for?
What's what?
The donut in the sidewalk?
That little half,
Green space.
little
It's a
half.
donut.
That was, that little walkout area is intended as a view shed down the east facing.
The donut is?
Yeah, down the Kalamazoo River. Obviously, the vegetation is so overgrown right there that you can't see any of the water. So that's something that's on the radar to have cut down so that you can view the river from that. Yeah, correct.
View the dam that won't be.
And it'll be a much nicer view when the dam is gone.
And a little grassy area in the center.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
And I don't have anything tonight, so I'll go ahead and adjourn at 7:51. Thank you all.
Thank you.